Members, usual things: switch off your mobile phone, declare interest, overview of today's business, consideration of the final report on the committee inquiry into wind energy, briefing on the proposed scheme governance and draft local government pension scheme regulations, and briefing from the Education for Sustainable Development Forum. Apologies, we have one from Ian Meehan and Barry McAduff. Ian McCraig may be a bit late. We'll wait and see. He said he will try to make it. And then, any other apologies members are aware of? No? Okay. Chairperson's business, members, at page 5, there's a letter from CPL Industries seeking a meeting with the committee about the benefits of smokeless fuel in Northern Ireland. Members, I just wonder if we just leave this for a while. I mean, the interim report hasn't even been out, so it could be a long time before we will be talking about this issue.
Okay.
If, there's going to be legislation down the road.
Yeah, okay.
So, members, if we write back and say we'll wait until a more appropriate time before we will meet with them.
Agreed.
You okay? Minutes is at page 8, members. Are you content to agree the minutes?
Great.
Content? Thank you. Then item 4 is matters arising at page 14, members. Correspondence from RES at page 17. Members, are you content to note? Okay. Item 4.3, interim reports from DETI on the safety issues relating to wind turbines is at page 19, and also a table paper there from them at page 3 of your table pack. And also there's also table also at 4.5 is an HSSE NI formal response in relation to the same issue. Okay, what they're saying is really they have no evidence that debris was scattered on the road, as we'd heard previously from an email from others. So, but they're still being investigated. We'll get the formal response at a later stage. Okay, when investigation is complete. Okay, members content with that? In the meantime, all right. And we've included the best we could anyway in our report to say that incident has happened and being investigated. Okay, Lord Morrow, you all right there?
Yeah, I'm quite well.
Okay, right here then. 4.6 also tabled in your table pack at page 4, members, and that's the Minister's response to the letter from the Finance Minister, Simon Hamilton. I haven't read it. Let's have a read. We are looking at the Minister's response to Simon Hamilton's letter. That's page 4
Oh, right.
at your table pack.
Table 4. Very fine letter, I'm sure. Thank you. What's this for?
Well, anyway, it's specifically said now in the final budget that there's 1.9 million specifically for derating anyway, so. Yeah, so the cut is still 14.7%, because that 1.9 million is going to go straight to the council for the rating grant. Yeah. Okay, members content to note?
Clear?
Yeah.
Agree to disagree.
Andrew, okay? Yeah, yeah. Okay, and then the item 4.4 at page 20, members. That's, members, if you remember, we agreed at our last meeting, this is the proposed visitors to Edinburgh. We agreed at our last meeting to defer consideration of a proposed visit to Edinburgh to participate in the Scottish Environmental Week 2015. It was proposed that the Environment Committee should promote a similar event in Northern Ireland, possibly in June 2015, with engagement from voluntary and community groups, local businesses and schools, as well as MLAs. The visit would take place on Wednesday, the 18th, and Thursday, the 19th February, and would involve an overnight stay in Edinburgh. So, how would member like to proceed? Member agree that?
Chair, could you just clarify, because I think one of the things we're trying to find, which, I mean, I don't think there was a particular argument about, particularly yourself, in terms of going and that and sanctioning that, but I think one of the things last week there was mention made of to see, and obviously there was, I suppose, views expressed at least that the numbers should be restricted. In terms of the feedback of members' availability or desire to go, what did we get in terms of numbers? Because that also affects the other issue about if there are some people going, what's the, you know, whether we allow people to go but also then proceed with things, or whether we cancel things that week or whatever. So I'm just wondering what...
Yeah, I would like it to be a visit on the Thursday, and it's up to members to express their interest with whether they're available
Chair,
to go. I appreciate that it's, you know, spans over 2
Chair,
days or sometimes.
My understanding was that we were going to be probing to see who was available in relation to that, because what I'm saying is, you know, I had no problem agreeing a couple of folk going, but I'm just, or whatever the number we eventually agree in relation to that. But obviously one of the issues arising out of that was if it turned out there was one person going, 2 people going, 3, you know, we would have to make a judgment call on whether or not that meant that everything else was postponed for, and, you know, I suppose if you take it at one end of the scale, if you end up with 5 members going across to Scotland, that's possibly different than if it ends up being on the other end of the scale, 1 member going to Scotland, you know, and that. But I'm just wondering, did we get any feedback off members as to where we were in terms of availability, in terms of members?
Have we?
Well, nobody came back to me, but I think the email I sent out was more an indication that you came along to the meeting today with your party views and your own views,
Yes.
whether or not you'd be prepared to participate.
Yeah.
Certainly no member came back to me about it.
Look,
directly.
Chair, I think it should go ahead. I think the Chair should go with one other from any party that wishes to go. I think that would limit the thing. I think that's reasonable enough. I think that we can learn a lot from Scotland, and certainly any Sorry about this, Chair. Sorry. Thought that was off. Oh, dear.
They have run this for.
Recording that,
I
right.
usually leave it upstairs in my office because I'm terrified of the thing going off. But anyway, there you are.
Continue, please continue. Yes.
What?
You don't even trust yourself.
No, I don't actually. And indeed, it went off yesterday in the Justice Committee. I didn't know how to turn it off. But anyway,
Continue.
It's quite alarming, right? Okay.
well, don't know where I am now. Yeah,
You were gonna read the
I
news?
think no, but I do think that there's value in learning from our Scottish colleagues. They've been very, very good in the past, very, very good, and any visit that I've certainly made or other party colleagues have made have been immensely useful. So I think we should confine it to one person from each party. May well be some people who want to go, that's all right. We do the 2 days. Now, if there's a question of a committee meeting, you could actually have the committee meeting. I don't think we'll be overburdened with work. We've done a lot. We've done the road traffic stuff, and we've done the
Inquiries
wind
done,
inquiry. So, you know, we don't have a massive amount.
No,
I think subject to what the clerk might say.
Yeah.
So we could have a meeting, say, on the Tuesday. A quick meeting on the Tuesday, get through all the sort of formal stuff that we need to do. So
That's a good
I think
idea.
that's a
actually.
reasonable
That's a
compromise.
good idea.
Chair, from that
Yeah.
point of view, if that was the case, if ultimately that was the case, that's something that certainly be looked at. What I would like, and I've no problem with the it being officially sanctioned that some members go in that regard. I think the only issue which, and from that point of view, I think the itinerary on a Wednesday, Thursday seems reasonable enough for anybody that's going. The only issue that I have, and the only issue why I think we just need to at least get the feedback of those who are willing to go, is whether or not then the committee doesn't meet that week. Because I think there is a distinction between if it ends up being, and there is enough volunteers that there's 4 or 5 people going, I think that's a different kettle of fish than if we end up, as I said, if you end up in a situation, if a member of the committee is going to be absent, even if it's the chair, cancelling a committee meeting simply on the basis of one person being absent, or possibly 2 people being absent, I would like at least to evaluate on that issue. I'm no problem with any of the other bits, so it's purely in terms of whether the committee has any meeting that week or whatever. And really, it's just simply a question of finding out who is intending to go, and then I think we can make a judgment on whether we need any form of committee meeting, whether it needs to be on the Tuesday, whether it needs to still go ahead on the Thursday in the absence of a person and that sort of thing. I mean, the normal process, I know again, from a local government point of view, is quite often I'll get a situation where a couple of members of the council will be delegated to go to a particular conference or whatever. Whether it's a council committee or the council, then it carries on with whatever it's doing in that particular bit, whether that's the chair or whether it's anybody else. All I'm just saying is, as regards whether we have a meeting that week or not, I think we need to evaluate on some level of knowledge who potentially is going, first of all, and then come to a conclusion on that aspect of things.
Well, who is available? Sorry, Cahill, you want to come in?
Yeah, Chair, from the last day we discussed it, I mean, Barry had indicated that he may consider going. The only issue is that we have put a rationale forward to the party in relation to why we would attend a meeting like that.
Yeah.
We're just waiting back, but I mean the intentions of me and Barry had a discussion about this yesterday. So
It's really fact finding.
so soon, but we'll be back today or at least tomorrow morning in relation to that. And that's the normal procedure for us. The rationale as to this trip. And but Barry, out of the 3 of us, Barry has indicated that he would, if we get the clearance to go, he would go.
Yeah, I thought that was what he
Yes.
more or less said.
Did you factor in whether Barry was coming back or not?
So,
Hey,
Did you factor in whether Barry was coming back or not whenever you put the message to your party?
well, that's
Yeah.
the procedure. But
Okay.
I mean, I'll certainly not be going this term round. But we'll see.
okay. And Alban, you would be interested to go.
Yes, I would be subject
Okay.
to all sorts
Okay.
of.
What about Sandra?
I'm sorry, Chair, but due to personal circumstances, I can't attend.
Understand. Yeah, yeah.
And if you were going to have a meeting, it'd be preferable to have it on the Tuesday rather than the Thursday when you're not here. in my view,
Yeah.
But that's just personal circumstances. Thank
I
you.
know. Wait for another. We'll wait until
Chair,
we hear
even
from
at
Barry.
that, to be fair, Chair, I mean,
Yes.
we have had meetings on the Tuesday before. I mean, that
Sure.
wouldn't be a complicated issue.
No.
for us.
Sure, I mean, like,
I mean,
I'm certainly happy if you had to book your tickets or whatever and,
Yeah.
and confirm attendance in that regard. I think the only just issue I want to come back whenever we get a little bit clearer
Okay, yeah.
as to what arrangements, if any, we have for that week on that regard.
Sure.
And I think that becomes a bit clearer once we know definitively who's going, numbers going,
Yeah.
you know, and that. But that's the only
Yeah.
bit that I'm raising.
Yeah. I mean, anybody from DUP may be interested to go.
Yeah,
Pam's
I-
not here today.
I mean, I'm can't entirely speak
Pam?
for colleagues, but certainly from judging last week, I don't think any of the four of us were
Okay.
free to go in that regard.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. Okay.
sort of thing. So.
Okay. What members would you be happy then if Barry's interested to go? He will represent Sinn Féin and Sandra because of personal issue and she's not able to go. But you would be supporting of the committee.
Yep, that's
going?
fine.
And then Auburn.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So then, if we have the Barry, Auburn, and myself going then, and then we arrange a short meeting on Tuesday, then to look at the
Chair, again,
issue.
I'm not sure. All I'm saying, just in relation to that, is I'm happy to actually go. I think once we get, because I suppose Barry is possible, great question mark. All I'm just saying is once it is clear from out of the 11 members how many's going, I think we should take a decision on that. I don't want entirely just preempt what we do that
Well,
week, because the other factor.
Sorry, Peter, presuming, I mean, at the moment it's quite clear. Only at the moment, Auburn, myself, and we don't know about Barry.
two stroke
So it'll be
three.
three people going, representing.
Yeah, Chair,
you know,
the
the
other issue,
committee.
just in terms of what arrangements we have for that week, we don't know just precisely. I mean, we have a reasonable idea of what's coming down the pipeline. We don't know if there's going to be anything urgent. We don't know anything. I'm just saying, if we could take a decision on what we're doing for that week a little bit nearer the time, that's all I'm saying in relation to that. I'm more than happy for yourself, Alban, and Barry, if it clears the Arcalia.
I think it's a very good
on that side of
team,
things.
actually.
Yes, yeah.
Very fine team.
And there's Chinese New Year on Thursday. I
The
shall
18th.
treat you all to a Chinese
Rome?
lunch, maybe.
on whatever team it is. Not comment on it. No armament
Yeah,
involved this
yeah,
time.
yeah.
so-
All I'm suggesting is, from the committee's point of view, I'm very happy for that to be sanctioned on behalf of the committee for those people to be going. All I'm just saying is I would like to lead precisely what we're going to be doing that week as regards whether we need anything additional, whether we simply cancel things, whatever, a little bit nearer the time as regards the other end of it.
That's quite unusual. Whenever we organise a trip somewhere, we decide,
with respect,
we decide in advance.
Chair, I'm trying to reach some level of compromise in this,
no.
because the reality is,
Yes.
if it was simply a question of should we as a committee go or not go, I'd probably, my gut feeling would actually say no, we shouldn't, to be honest on it. I think there's stuff to be done here. However, I think we're trying to accommodate, there's a desire for people to go. All I'm just saying is, can we at least just wait a little bit closer to the time in terms of what arrangements, if any, are needed for the committee for that week, and decide at that stage?
And then if we need to discuss anything, as Robin suggests, we could have a meeting
And
on
with
Tuesday.
respect on it, we don't know what nature of anything, if anything, that could be. And I'm just saying, could we actually leave that element of things a little bit nearer the time to see what, if anything, is coming down the pipeline in relation to that? I mean, I don't think that's unreasonable, while sanctioning the trip going in that regard.
How many weeks is that to the trip? It's about 2 weeks, 3 weeks to the trip.
3 weeks.
3 weeks to the trip. Can we just check our forward work programme?
But we'll look at, Chair, let's confirm it. We'll come back. I mean, we should know by the end of the day in terms of
Back.
availability. I think we can
Yeah, I
talk
think
all
that's
day.
right. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's say we're granting.
We're
In
then.
principle, I'm happy enough to support the trip.
I'm happy enough if you want to start even booking today or whatever on that side of it.
Cahos, you
Yeah.
support the trip going?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll support the trip. Yeah.
Okay. Right, okay, members, then we leave it then to confirm, okay, in a day or two. Members, the next item is our committee inquiry into wind energy. Members, you all should have your report in double envelopes. And so it's...
Sorry, just on that, I mean, maybe worthwhile formally just raising, and appreciate no criticism of the staff here, because I understand that they're under a particular restriction in terms of, I'm just wondering if as a committee we could raise this higher in terms of, like, it really seems to be a bit of a nonsense that we're receiving all this stuff and it's, you know, if we're supposed to be looking after the environment, 2 envelopes seem to be a little bit on the unnecessary side. Now, I appreciate there's no choice at all that the committee staff have in relation to this, but I'm not sure what particular extra security or advantage the fact it's in 2 envelopes has in terms of the thing. You know, how if somebody was going to break into the envelope, you know, this is not the face with another safe within the bank type of thing. I'm just wondering if there could be
Just want
some.
to say, what does it say? That, are they different in the 2 envelopes? So that's the outside
One envelope's inside another envelope.
That's the inside.
It's like a sort of a,
Just said
I think that,
confidential
you know, it would be
inside.
clear then that nobody could open it in error.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, somebody may
sets
get
the
a single
fingerprints?
envelope and
Could
come
be a
upon it
members-
without
could be a-
realising it, whereas I don't
be a
think anybody
PA.
could open
Yeah.
2 envelopes in, when one's clearly more confidential.
But why can't they put confidential on the outside
I
envelope
think
then?
confidential is supposed to be on the outside.
That part of it's not confidential.
I
me
appreciate
I
this
don't
isn't a
make
problem
copy,
because I could
Henry.
at least just
No, make
see if it
copies
could get
of
raised
this, no.
somewhere else in terms of
I could-
at least to explain you know, well, that's the rationale on it.
Yeah.
Right.
When I
Not
could,
convinced. Like, I think at the end of the day, if somebody wants to open an envelope, they'll open it.
Well, you can recycle envelopes.
Yeah.
Better not. That's for recycling, is not using something in the first place.
yeah. Well, I can mention that in the chair liaison group.
Yes.
Members, you know, and then just as an item, you know, for discussion. Okay, members. Next thing then, the more important bit is that members content with the report. You all ready to agree to report? Okay, are you content with the executive summary? Okay, members agreed?
Great.
Are you content with the key conclusions and recommendations?
Great.
Are you content with the introduction? That's paragraph 45 to 56. Why is the introduction at the end?
Yes.
Sheila? No, that's not the introduction. Conclusion must be.
No,
No?
it's the introduction.
Why is the introduction at the
It's
end?
just the name of that part of the report. It introduces why we're carrying it out and so forth in the background to it before then the
Okay.
actual evidence comes in.
Okay. Right, members happy with that?
Great, Chair.
Okay. Are members content with the consideration of the evidence? That's paragraph 60 to 245.
Great.
Agreed? Okay, are members content with the content of Appendix 1, minutes of proceedings?
Great.
Agree. Are members content with the content of Appendix 2, minutes of evidence?
Great, Chair.
Content with Appendix 3, written submissions?
Agreed.
Appendix 4, content?
Great.
Appendix 5, content?
Great.
They are departmental papers. Appendix 6, research papers.
Great, Chair.
Appendix 7, other papers submitted to the committee. Content?
Great.
Appendix 8 is list of witnesses.
Great.
Are members content? Okay. Then, members, are you content for the report to contain the relevant extracts from the minutes, from today's minutes? From today's meeting, members will be agreeing to their inclusion in the report without prior sight of the documents, just to say you agree.
Great, Chair.
The contents. Okay, members happy with that?
Great, Chair.
Okay, the report will now be ordered to be printed and submitted to the business office as the committee's report on this inquiry into wind energy. The report will be embargoed until the commencement of the debate. How many copies are we printing?
Initially, we're just printing 2. We have to lay 2 in the business office within 24 hours, so any member who wishes to can go in and read it in the business office. The formal copies that are printed out by the PPO within the Assembly, it's usually the executive summary and the sort of main body of the report, and all of the appendices are on a CD at the back of it,
Okay.
so that wouldn't normally be printed out.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
I think you can request a full copy, but I'm not sure how many
Yes.
pages. It's
Yes.
about 3,000, I think.
Okay, yes, yeah, because at the last meeting of the chairperson liaison group, thousands of pounds you looked at on
Yeah.
printing. It's such a waste. So do we send the whole report then to the stakeholders? The one,
No, normally what we do is we usually write out a letter to anyone who has given us a submission or has given us evidence, and we just give them a link to the Assembly
Yeah,
website
it's on the
so
website.
that
That's
they
the
can
best,
pick it up
yeah.
there.
yeah,
Rather than either giving them a hard copy or anything
Yeah.
else. I think
Yeah,
Through
that's
the
just convenient.
yeah.
The Chair, for clarification, I mean, when are we sending some bargo to? Have you any date?
The commencement of the debate in plenary,
So what, are we looking at a couple of weeks, is it?
probably a couple of weeks, yes, probably. I'll have to put it to the business committee and see when it's convenient.
Thank you.
Okay.
Schedule it.
Yep. Okay, members content with that?
Yeah, great,
Okay.
Chair.
Yep. And then we'll do a press statement. Members content with that?
I can
on the
do
day?
the motion as
All right,
well.
have you?
You have to
Okay.
Chair, can I just-
Members,
Just on behalf of staff, thank the staff for the work they've done in that. I think we've done a good body of work in relation to it. And we've stuck to our own remit as best we can. Obviously, there's other factors outside of that we couldn't deal with, but I think it's been a pretty good exercise, and I think we give everybody a fair hearing.
Yeah.
But I just want to put on record to thank the staff for all the work they've done in bringing this report forward for us.
absolutely, I
Thank you.
endorse that.
I
Yeah,
concur.
well, thank to
that's
all
very
the staff. Had one. They're very balanced, I thought, report. Well done to all. And well done to members too. You all worked very hard on that as well. Okay, members, there's a draft motion you have there for a plenary debate on the inquiry. That's at page 26. Pretty straightforward.
It is.
Members, are you content to proceed to lay the motion for a plenary debate on the inquiry, or possibly in about 2 weeks' time? Are you content?
Content.
Okay, then thank you very
Just
much.
maybe sign that now.
You sign that? Yep. Okay, thank you. Then, members, the next item is consultation. That's item 6, page 28. Members, just refer you to a note of consultations received from the department. Any comments on that, members? Obviously, we can ask for a synopsis of responses.
Okay.
Happy with it?
Great, Chair.
Okay. Item 7 is synopsis of responses to the consultation on ethical standards framework. That's at page 34. The local government bill did not specify how the costs of the commissioner for complaint should be apportioned among councils, but that this should be determined by the department subsequently. After a limited consultation on 4 possible options, the Minister has decided that he will use a hybrid version of 2 of the options, that's option B and D, and this means that the cost will be now apportioned on the basis of the number of councillors and council income from rates weighted at kind of 50-50. Members, are you content that the department will issue a circular advising councils on this decision?
Great.
Yeah, great.
Okay, it seems a fair compromise.
Chair,
Okay,
just while we're on and again, I appreciate it's not directly the cost, but maybe to be honest, I was passing about. There's obviously we'd agreed in terms of legislation on the ethical standards, in terms of then the complaints procedure, then of an appeal mechanism, and then there was concern. I know the department had raised that the ombudsman had particular problems. And I wonder just if we can get, I'm not necessarily in a briefing, but I wonder if we can just get a wee bit of an update, written update from the department as to precisely where all that is at present on that side as well.
yeah. They're now going to split, kind of like
No, I understand that, but it's just if we just got, I mean, as I said,
Yeah.
it may be
Yeah.
that we don't necessarily need a briefing at this stage, but if we just got a wee bit of a written update as to where we are.
Okay, we'll do that.
yeah,
A good idea.
it is,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, members. Next item 8 at page 45, synopsis of responses for consultation on the waste, electrical and electronic equipment. compliance fee methodology. The 2013 regulations provide for a compliance fee payable by producers if they fail to achieve their collection target in any category. The UK-wide consultation period ran from 24th of October 2014 to 24th November 2014, and a total of 27 responses were received, of which 23 supported the introduction of a compliance fee. It is now proposed that the Secretary of State for Business, Innovation and Skills will announce approval for a compliance fee by the end of January 2015. Members, are you content with it?
Great.
Thank you. Then item 9 at page 50, that's a synopsis of responses to consultation on the proposed scheme governance and draft local government pension scheme amendment regulations. Members, you may remember we requested a briefing from the Department on the responses to this consultation on the proposed scheme governance, on this proposed scheme, and so we have departmental staff here to respond, to give us a briefing on this. Good morning.
Morning.
You're very welcome. Marie Cochrane, Local Government Policy Branch, and Patrick Smith from the Local Government Policy. And thank you very much for coming. If you can give us a short presentation, I'm sure members will have questions to ask you afterward.
First, can I thank you very much for the opportunity to brief the committee on the outcome of the consultation on the policy proposals and the draft regulations for governance arrangements in the local government pension scheme. As members will be aware, the Public Service Pensions Act 2014 set out various elements that had to be included in pension arrangements for the public service from 1st of April 2015. Sections 5 and 7 of that Act requires that each scheme has a pension board and a scheme advisory board, and that the arrangements for these are included in the scheme regulations. The Department held a 12-week consultation on proposed policy and draft regulations for the governance arrangements for the local government scheme. We received 12 responses. 8 came from employing authorities in the scheme, 3 from trade unions, and 1 from the scheme administrator, Milgos. As far as the pension board was concerned, the consultation document put forward 2 possible options. One was to use the power that was in section 5(2) of the Act to designate Milgos as the pension board. The Department did, however, include a safeguard that if the Department was to withdraw that resignation at any time, if evidence showed that this wasn't really working, then Milgos would have to establish its own pension board. The other option was for a pension board, separate pension board, from 1st of April 2015. The majority of responses, 8 of the 12 responses, supported having designating Milgos as the pension board. The Minister considered that and has consequently decided that he will designate Milgos as the pension board for the LGPS, and that will be reflected in the regulations. The safeguard provision will also be included that if in the future, for any reason, the Minister decides that the dual role isn't working as well as it could, or that some other arrangement would be better, then a separate board will be appointed. Including it in the regulations now allows us to take action quickly, should that ever happen, rather than waiting until a problem arises and then we'd have to amend the regulations, which could be 9 months. The composition of Milgos at the moment satisfies the requirements of the Act, that there has to be an equal number of employer and member representatives on the board. Milgos has 5 employer and 5 employee representatives. It also has 2 independent representatives and an independent chairperson. The other component of the new governance arrangements is a scheme advisory board to provide advice to the Department on desirability of changes to the scheme. Again, we proposed two options in the consultation. One was for the advisory board to have a similar structure to the existing local government pension scheme review group. The review group was set up in 2010 to consider and advise the minister about proposed changes to the pension scheme. It was, just to give a bit of background, it was set up not long after we brought in new pension arrangements in 2009, and it was really, initially, it was to look to see how those regulations were working and whether we did need change going forward. And it has continued since with a changing role according to what the minister would like them to look at, but always looking at what the pension scheme should be like. It's chaired by a senior official of the department and has 4 member and 4 employer representatives. The 4 member representatives come from the 4 trade unions that have the largest number of members in Northern Ireland in the sectors in the scheme, and then the 4 employers are from the 4 larger employers in the scheme. The other option that the department proposed was for a separate board, completely appoint a new board. The department would advertise and see what happens. 9 of the 12 responses supported the option that the scheme advisory group, that the scheme advisory board should have a similar structure to the existing review group, and the ministers decided that that's what would happen. The provision will be included in the regulations to enable the department to appoint the members, and officers from NELGOS will continue to provide specialist advice to the advisory board as they do at the minute to the review board. Department officials will provide the secretariat. At the moment, we're proposing a senior official, nearly say that, will chair the advisory board. That's a very short introduction, so if members have any particular questions.
Yeah. I think that's quite sensible, really. We don't want duplication. I think it's a good compromise, particularly if there's safeguard built into it. I think that's a good arrangement. Yeah.
With a small, well, it's not a small scheme; it's a large pension scheme, but the department's always very conscious that the administration costs are borne by the members and the employers.
Yeah.
And while we have to live up to what the Act requires, we don't want to make it overly bureaucratic, but we want to make sure members' and employers' interests are represented, and at every step along the way.
Yeah.
And that best practice is in there.
And you said there are 2 independent. How do you recruit the 2 independent?
The independents for the NELGOS board, all the members of the NELGOS board are recruited through the public appointments.
Okay.
So they are. So it's when when members come forward, obviously they say whether they're coming from an employer, trade a member background or an independent background. I find that the independents have worked very well because they're bringing expertise from other areas.
Sure.
And they're, saying things like, "Well, we don't do it that way," or "Have you thought about this?" Which is very good.
Yes.
Because it stops everybody getting too set in their ways.
Are they remunerated? Are they
Yes,
paid?
the members receive a meeting allowance
Okay.
of £117 per meeting.
Per meeting. Okay.
The chairman is the one who gets an annual remuneration of somewhere in the region of, keep me right, Patrick, 12,600?
How much?
12,600.
Okay.
I should say, though, the department will be looking again at the remuneration of the committee of NELGOS, simply because it's been in place for a while, and if they're also going to be the pension board, while there was no support to give them additional remuneration, or not a large amount of support, we think it's time to review the structure of the remuneration to see if it's appropriate going forward with.
Because councillors now, their pay, from April with the new super councils, their pay are going to be higher than the existing councillors' pay. Yeah,
well, there was a link to the remuneration of councillors way back, but with the change in councillor remuneration over the years, it's sort of got lost.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think it's time we went back and had another look at it.
Sure. Okay. Well, any questions from members? Happy with that, members? Lord Morrow, you look thoughtful.
There was one, but I mean, I think the lady just answered it there at the end. In relation to Nilgos, is that now the favoured favoured option of all of those who responded?
Not all, it was a majority.
Substantial.
Yes. If I, hang on.
And what were the concerns of those who
There were some.
negative?
The ones that were negative were concerned that it wouldn't be possible to have, that it wouldn't be right to have a body actually double check it itself,
Yeah,
that it should be separate.
sort of the police policing themselves. Is that it?
Yes, exactly. But it was only 3 of the 12 objected. Now, that is an area that the department does have some, I'm trying to think of how to put it. While we don't see that there'll be a problem, we don't want to be complacent that it will work, which is why the safeguard was put in, that the minister could withdraw the designation if it wasn't working properly. Because there is a risk that people could get complacent.
Yeah, I heard you use that word. And Chair, could I just say, are you satisfied in relation to the 3 that have the concerns that there is enough transparency within the system to ensure that any of the issues that they are concerned about will be addressed or can be addressed?
The pension board will be required to report on its activities. And now, it will be included in the Nilgos report, because there's no point in having 2 reports, because one report is already led before the Assembly, so it can form part of that. We will be discussing with the committee exactly how they should conduct business going forward. The minister can set conditions. Those conditions could include things like making minutes of meetings available online, so that employers and members can read them, and if they have concerns, raise them.
Right, and there then is the question then, if they have concerns, those can be addressed. You're
Yes.
confident about that?
Yes. Well, they can certainly be considered, and if they're not addressed properly, the department would have to step in.
Yeah, right, fair enough. Okay,
Yeah,
Chair.
that's what I meant, the safeguard. It's in paragraph 11, it says, it's NIPSR and Unite raised concerns around the separation of the role of the committee and that of the pension board. Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
they were concerned about
yeah,
having the 2 different ones.
yeah.
I should say that the department will be monitoring this carefully. It's a new arrangement, and we want to make sure it works for the best interests of employers and members.
I suspect there'll be others monitoring quite closely too.
And just right, they should be.
Yes, of course.
The employers and members should be keeping an eye on what's going on.
Yes, it's their future, their pension.
It's their pension scheme, and the more interest they take, the better.
Yes, of course. Thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, people depend on the quality of life after retirement, with the
Yes,
pension.
we would
Absolutely.
in fact, it's difficult to get younger people involved and get that interest in pensions. Your members here know
Yeah.
people tend to wake up to pensions a bit late.
Sure.
Possibly not now when there's more talk about it, but
Yeah.
the more interest we can generate, the better.
But is it not compulsory for
Auto
them to
enrolment
do
is
in a
there,
row? Yeah.
but you don't have to stay after auto enrolment. You can opt out again.
All right. Okay.
You will be auto enrolled again 3 years later,
Yeah.
but again you can opt out.
All right. Okay. So there will be gaps. Could be gaps in between.
You could. But
Okay.
as always with these things,
Yeah.
it varies. Auto enrolment is bringing more people in,
Yeah.
so it is. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, at the minute, with pressure on people's pay packets, the additional going out of their
Sure.
pay
Sure.
can prove difficult for some.
Yeah, understand. I think for young people too, they think it's going to be 40 years, in the future, and why should I worry about it? Okay, no more questions from me and Patrick? Yes, Pam?
Have you any indication of how many people do opt out?
It varies from employer to employer. I think we had about, now sometimes since I'd looked at the figures, but I can check them if you'd like. But I think we had about an 80% membership, somewhere between 75 and 80. But it varied from employer to employer, because we find that those employers with more part-time workers have a higher opt-out rate.
Yeah, yeah,
So although in the local government scheme, for the majority of employers, when somebody joins that employment, the member should be automatically brought into the scheme. You cannot make the member stay in.
no, of course.
And no matter how much advice their personnel, HR people might give them, or their trade union representatives give them, they can come out again. I have to say, though, we find that some employers they tend to listen more to the trade union reps than the HR, possibly because it's their local shop steward or
Yeah.
local branch representative, don't know.
They seem to be on their side.
Yes.
And union, yes, management side is different. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But,
Okay.
Thank you,
Okay.
just curious.
Yeah.
right, okay.
What is the percentage in terms of contribution from employers into the pension?
At the moment, I think it's
20%.
20%.
That's pretty good. That's quite good. Yeah, yeah.
There is some variation for some employers, but they
Okay.
are employers with particular reasons for having their contribution increased.
Okay, okay.
But
That's certainly worthwhile for
Yes.
an employees to do.
Well, members pay round about, the average is 6.4, 6.3, 6.4
Okay.
for
okay.
members, but their employers contributing 20.
20%.
So,
Yeah,
you know, it is a good scheme.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's good to encourage people to see the benefit of it, even it could be years in the future. Yeah,
Yes, but it's still there for them.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Members content with the briefing? No questions?
I think so. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, members, then, are you content that the department prepared the statutory route?
Yeah.
Yes, okay, thank you.
I wouldn't.
Next item, item 10, at page 84, members, is an SL1. That's the Planning Fees Regulation NI 2015. The purpose of the rule is to set out the details of charging fees for planning applications. This is a technical amendment which will maintain the existing levels of fees as responsibility for planning responsibilities transferred to councils. The statutory rule is subject to negative resolution and is proposed to come into operation on 1st of April 2015. Members, are you content for the department to proceed with making the rule?
Great.
Okay. Next item, 11, page 99, and SR. This is on the food waste regulation. Members mentioned this earlier. The purpose of the rule is to encourage the segregation and separate collection of food waste. The committee considered the SL1 for this rule at last week's meeting, and we were content for the department to make the rule. The rule is subject to the negative resolution procedure and will come into operation on the 14th of February 2015. The examiner has not yet commented on the rule. Members raised concern about this. Was it Sandra? Was it Peter?
So, Chair, just
Sorry, Peter.
subsequent, I think, the last week.
Would they act?
Yeah, R21 have certainly written to me saying that they appreciate and
Yes.
would be supportive of the general intention
Yeah.
of the rule, but they have some concerns over both consultation and also the implications of the outworkings of this. And I suppose just suggest it might be useful to get somebody up from the department to give us a briefing before we
Yeah.
come to a conclusion
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. It's still time, so it's not coming into force until the 14th of February. So, members, we ask then the department to come and brief us on this
Okay.
before we make a decision. Okay. The next item is the departmental briefing on 2 statutory rules deferred by the committee at our last meeting. Members, so it's the SR on nitrate Nitrates Action Programme regulations, and that's at page 113. And then another SR is the phosphorus use of agriculture regulations, and that's at page 161. Members, if I can welcome Eamon Campbell from the Regulatory Natural Resource and Policy Division, and Fiona Wilson from the same division. You're very welcome, and as you have heard, members wanted really to hear more details about it before we make the decision for the SR to go ahead. So if you can proceed, please. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Well, first of all, perhaps I should explain the purpose of the Nitrates Action Programme and the making of the regulations and why they're necessary to Northern Ireland. The reason we make the regulations is to implement the Nitrates Directive, which is a directive from Europe, and there is no opt-out on that directive, so we're obliged to renew the Nitrates Action Programme and create a new one every 4 years. And if we don't, we run the risk rather of infraction from Europe. Primarily, its aim is to protect water quality, so that helps the environment, which is something clearly we're very interested in DOE. It also encourages farmers to adopt efficient farm management practice, make better use of their nitrates and their nutrients, and rely less on chemical fertilisers. And this programme builds on the progress that has been made in the previous 2 programmes. So we've had programmes in place since 2007. And it's also designed to be implemented at minimal cost to the industry. This is something we were very conscious of, that we didn't want to increase the burdens on industry and on the economy at this point in time. Perhaps if I could go on, Chair, just to explain the process we went through. It's been quite a long process in terms of producing the regulations. The process started about 2 years ago, August 2013, and initially we held an open stakeholder event in November 2013, and we then developed our proposals and issued a consultation in June last year. That consultation then finished on the 29th of August. So following that consultation, then we made further changes and amendments to our proposals in the regulations that you see in front of you today. We had a series of bilateral meetings with the Ulster Farmers Union to get their feedback on the practicalities of the measures and so on. We also had a second stakeholder event in May last year as well, to follow up and to inform the stakeholders of our proposals. So by October, November last year, we were at a stage where we were making final adjustments to the regulations. And during the period of last year as well, we also had to attend the Nitrates Committee, which is a Brussels-based committee made up of all the member states and chaired by the Commission. And we were required to present to that committee on 3 occasions to tell them what we had done previously through our programmes and what we were intending to do with the new programme. And the final meeting was last December, and where there was a vote taken on our derogation. We needed that vote to go ahead with the regulations. That was one of the reasons why we're a bit late in bringing them to the committee, unfortunately. But our timetable was very much dictated by Europe, and unfortunately they wouldn't budge on the bits of things and so on. So they were pretty much set in stone. We just had to live with that. The review itself, it covers a wide range of issues, and they're quite complex and technical in nature. In a minute or two I can talk you through some of those, the key changes that are being introduced in the new programme. We relied heavily on technical and scientific input from colleagues in DARD, in CAFRE and AFBI. And we reported, I'm the project manager of a joint DOE-DARD team, which brought this process through. We've reported all along to a joint management group from DOE and DARD. we are today.
Okay, it's okay. So that's been a long process of
It has, yeah.
public engagement and also referring back to EU. Is Fiona going to talk to us about the
Sorry, I
programme
neglected
itself?
to introduce
Yeah.
Fiona. It's Dr. Fiona Wilson, who's in my team and who's our nitrates expert. And Fiona has been working hard over the last 2 years on all of this. And Fiona will certainly speak about the detail of the proposals if the committee requires it. Certainly, yes.
And maybe Fiona can tell us, how is it different this time to the last programme, maybe too?
Yes, if you'd like. I think we provided you with a summary of the new measures that are coming in.
Page 113, is that the one?
115.
115 members. Yeah.
Which apologies for the size of the printout. When it's actually printed for the farmers, it's going to be a bigger size. This is the previous one, so people will be able to read it. I've lost my copy of it.
I must say, when I was reading it last night, I skipped that bit. I couldn't read it, it was so small.
I've got it here. If members would like to have a look at that leaflet, you can see that the text in blue is the changes from the last programme, and most of these some of these changes are based on new scientific and technical information that's come to light through research, etc., since the last programme was put in place. So it's updates of values in the tables and recommendations for for nitrogen and fertiliser applications to different crops and things like that. And then some of the changes have been kind of discussed with the European Commission, and they were very much asking us to put some additional protection measures in place for spreading fertilisers on slopes, for example, to reinforce water protection during slurry and chemical fertiliser application. And also through discussions with the Commission, one of the main changes would be that farmers who are exporting manure now be asked to submit the records of their exports to NIEA. They previously had to already keep these records on the farm, but now they're going to be asked to submit them, and this should improve the department's ability to to manage where manure is going, see where it's going.
Who do they export them to?
Sorry?
Where do they export them to?
To other farms that might be producing less manure,
Outside
might
of
need
non-island?
it.
Outside of Northern Ireland?
Within or to the Republic.
Okay.
And a similar situation's already in place in the Republic, so it'll tie up with that. So there'll be a better paper trail for manure movements around the country. Because one of the questions the Commission frequently asks is, where is the manure going to, particularly, for example, poultry litter. They've got concerns about where it's been applied. Other changes from the last programme are that where manures containing a high proportion of phosphorus are applied, this will now be restricted to where there's a crop requirement for phosphorus. And this won't affect very many farms, but it would include manures such as some manures, some anaerobic digestates, and some types of pig slurry and some types of poultry manures, not broiler litter, but turkey litter and layer manure. But Department of Agriculture is hoping to commission some new research into the nutrient levels in poultry manures because of the changes in the diets, poultry diets recently, where phosphorus is reduced in the diets. So it may also reduce in the manures. So that measure is not going to come in until January 2017, by which time that research should be completed, and those poultry manures may not fall into that measure anymore.
Okay.
So that'll give the farmers a bit of time to adjust and to see which manures it will apply to.
Right, and I can see that in your paper there's a derogation from kind of EU rules, so farmers would welcome that.
Yes, the derogation is something that our farmers have been using for
Yeah.
quite some time now, and it allows more efficient nutrient management, particularly for intensive dairy farms. They can, in basic terms, they can apply more manure to the land and make better use of that.
Okay. Andrew?
Thank you very much. And thanks for coming today. It was probably me that asked the question last week. And I just wanted to be sure that it was clear what the differences were this time this time around. And so thanks for clarifying that detail. And it was interesting to see that the anaerobic digestion now has been included this time. And what's the rationale for, is it just something new that Northern Ireland is doing more of? Is that why it has to be included, or what's the rationale?
I think one of the purposes of the review was to give the opportunity to consider new developments and technical advances, particularly in the case of AD, and just to try and regulate that, because obviously that's a potential growth industry, AD, and we need to stay ahead of the game, I suppose, on that, and this is our attempt at doing that, really, and to obviously to let farmers know where they stand. They need to know as well what the requirements are, and also with keeping a view on the Commission's concerns about high phosphorus levels and phosphorus runoff into our waterways. Last time I was here, Gabriel Nelson talked about the river basin management plans, and one of the issues there that's keeping our water status back is phosphorus content. So this is all of these measures, including the measures on AD, are to help to control that and improve it.
What sort of scale of product are we talking about?
Just to clarify further about the anaerobic digestates, not all anaerobic digestates will be sort of restricted by the measure on high phosphorus manures, because if you're only digesting livestock manure, for example, and silage crops, etc., from your own farm, that wouldn't end up in a very high phosphorus digestate. It's more a situation where people are maybe bringing in food waste, something. So you're actually ending up with you're basically importing phosphorus onto your farm that then might be spread on the land, which might already be quite high in phosphorus. So just to control that and make sure those sort of manures go to land where phosphorus is required, because there are other soils in Northern Ireland which AFB and Dard are aware have low phosphorus status and would need more. So just to sort of redistribute phosphorus so that it's not over-applied where there's already an excess.
Just a point, and then in terms of the soil testing and the periods and all that, that would have an impact, or where is that managed?
Soil testing would be one of the areas where we will be introducing some extra cost to the industry, and the rationale for soil testing is so that the farmer knows the phosphorus content of the soil, so that he doesn't over-apply fertiliser or slurries. He's in a better informed position then in terms of his nutrient management.
And again, that would only be if you're applying either high phosphorus manures or, under the phosphorus regulations, chemical phosphorus fertiliser. Though I think DARD are hoping to bring forward some funding for sort of voluntary soil testing to improve nutrient management.
It would be a
farms
support and a
generally.
help, There's always a cost to it,
Yes.
And that's
Although we have tried to keep the cost to minimal
no,
level.
that's grand. No, it's fine. Thank you.
Okay. And what's the farming industry's response to all this? You said you've consulted widely and you talked to UFU. So are they content that this is a necessary action?
I think the UFU are realistic, and I think they accept that, you know, we live in an era where there's constant change, and farming's no different. And obviously environmental pressures continue regardless. So, yeah, I think they're accepting of the new programme, and we have had a series of meetings with them and engagements with them, and had full and frank discussions with them as well.
Okay. Or we all face fines.
Your frank question today. Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
But I think also they've welcomed some of the changes regarding, you know, updating of recommendations for crop requirements, and some of the, you know, based on some of the local research that's been carried out, so they were pleased to see those. And I think also they're aware that without an acceptable action programme being in place, the Commission wouldn't have put forward recommended for our derogation to go through.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point, you know, that the farming community, I think, understands now that, you know, we're not just doing this for the fun of it. There's pressure from Europe, and we need to comply with the directive, and this is the means of doing it, and the means of demonstrating that you're doing it, you know.
Just a follow-on question, will then the other side of that, in terms of yields and management practices, have to change, obviously? And I mean, the farming, agriculture, the industry would be well aware of that, and how is that supported? I mean, I'm just asked the question if they have to change certain practices because of what they can grow or what they can do, whatever the case may be. Is that a big impact, or is it?
Well, as part of our joint team with DARD, we, our colleagues in CAFRE will be organising training seminars, and there's a production of the new summary guide that Fiona referred to earlier, that you have a copy of. So there'll be a suite of measures that CAFRE will implement to bring farmers up to date with the requirements of the new programme.
Right.
And we also have
sorry, has it any impact on crop yield or any? Is any?
Well, yes. Again, as part of the research from AFB, it's been noted, you know, with new varieties coming forward and things that some cereal crop yields have been increasing in recent years, and we've adjusted the maximum nitrogen limits upwards on some of those cereals to allow for that. And as Eamon was saying, apart from the summary leaflet, there's also a guidance group being established at the minute, or underway at the minute, that involves some of the stakeholders, both UFU, NIAPA, and some of the environmental NGOs and the departments, and we're developing, you know, a more detailed guidance in conjunction with the stakeholders, so that farmers are aware of changes.
Could I just ask another question? I just want, just whenever you're here and talking about the change in diets of poultry and that sort of thing, do you have any update on the research that's going on in relation to the expansion of Moy Park and the alternative to Rose Energy? Is there still that, you know, if there's a change in diet, then does that mean there's still the demand that they had, or
I'm sure.
what? I'm sure there is. So, you know, I'm asking the question. But do you know? Have you heard any update on that? I know it was spearheaded by Daddy, but have you any information?
It's the Agriculture Committee.
Well, it's spearheaded by Daddy. So
we're only involved really on the sidelines on that, but we're aware that some projects are being considered for funding for demonstration projects. I think under that sustainable utilisation of poultry litter project. I think they're hoping some of them will be commissioned quite soon, but we wouldn't have the up-to-date detail on that. If you want, we could write to the committee about it, ask our colleagues and write to the committee.
That would be good. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can do that.
That's
All right,
great.
Sandra.
Okay. Thanks very much. Thanks a lot.
No more questions for Fiona and Eamon? No, no. Okay then. Well, thank you very much indeed, and thank you. That is only quite insightful for kind of a tiny. Good to read all this. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks.
Members, then, are you content then with the statutory route? Are you? Okay. So if I read that out to members. Okay, the Committee for the Environment has considered SR 2014/307, the Nitrates Action Programme Work Regulations NI 2014, and subject to the report of the Examiner of Statutory Rules, has no objection to the rule. Are members agreed? Agreed. Thank you. The next one, item 13, that's the phosphorus one. The Committee for the Environment has considered SR 2014/308, the Phosphorus Use in Agriculture Regulations Northern Ireland 2014, and subject to the report of the Examiner of Statutory Rules, has no objection to the rule. Are members agreed? Agreed. Thank you. So, members, the next item is item 14 at page 177. And also there's a briefing paper at page whatever of your table. At page 7 of your tabled pack. Okay, this one is on the Education on Sustainable Development Forum. If I can welcome the chair of the forum, and that's Owen. Is it Alan?
Alan Jones,
Alan
yes.
Jones. Alan Jones. And then Vice Chair Catherine Gleave and Committee Member Andy Griggs. Okay, you're very welcome. If you can give us a short presentation and then let members come in afterwards for questions.
That's great.
Thank you.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members of the committee. Thank you very much for this opportunity to brief you on education for sustainable development, the provision of it in Northern Ireland. The presence of ourselves here this morning is a great example of the diversity of organisations within the forum. We have representative organisations of local government, NGOs, voluntary organisations, and individual educationalists and providers. There are 75 organisations in total who are in the forum from all constituencies right across, and we're all voluntary there also. The forum was established in 1995 with the aim of enhancing the profile of the environmental education, but we changed our name there recently from the EEF to Education for Sustainable Development, as we recognised it as a dated term, and the wider sustainable development messages of our member organisations really came into play. We're a networking organisation that promotes a coordinated approach to the delivery of sustainability education in Northern Ireland. The Northern Ireland Environment Link are our secretariat, and we work very closely with them to deliver the messages. We provide a network, an exchange of information and best practice, and we encourage cooperation and partnership throughout our membership, therefore enhancing that provision within Northern Ireland. We publicise our members, and indeed this year one of our main events will be at Balmoral, where we're creating an education hub on the education trail throughout Balmoral. And our e-bulletin goes out to over 1,100 recipients every month. Key events in our calendar would also include Education for Sustainable Development training days for potential new teachers coming through the teaching training establishments here in the province. ESD, or Education for Sustainable Development, means including key sustainable development issues into teaching and learning, for example, climate change, disaster risk reduction, biodiversity, education, poverty reduction and sustainable consumption. It also requires participatory teaching and learning methods that motivate and empower learners to change their behaviour and take action for sustainable development. Education for Sustainable Development consequently promotes competencies like critical thinking, imagining future scenarios and making decisions in a collaborative way. And that again comes from a UNESCO document. That's why we changed our name from the Environment Committee, or the Environment Committee?
In 2016.
Thanks very much. From the EEF to the ESD Forum. So rather than just focusing on biodiversity education, we widened our messages. We recognised that we needed to support our members as they upskill individuals and training educators, interpreting complex messages to get out to the wider community, to take governmental key messages on sustainability and move those out to the community. This isn't just about children and young people, this is about lifelong learning. So it's not just about focusing in on schools, but on individuals, families, as well as children and young people. At the moment, ESD is not a subject taught in schools or delivered as programmes by Youth Service. At the moment, it takes part of a learning area in the curriculum called World Around Us, and incorporates geography, science, history at Key Stage 1 and 2. In 2009, the Department for Education and the Department for Employment and Learning published the STEM Review, and a draft STEM strategy to focus on these areas of learning. What they discussed in that, and they found, was that more connections are needed between STEM and education for sustainable development, as it encourages similar skills such as observation, recording of data, data handling and research. So it's obviously useful within those STEM subjects as well as in biodiversity. The Environment Agency is empowered and encouraged to educate and raise awareness through 5 Northern Ireland strategies, 2 European directives and 8 internationally recognised charters and conventions. And at present, the Forum members are delivering on those targets and interpreting key sustainable messages. Our members, 75 environmental organisations, are really an ideal vehicle for delivering those sustainable messages by giving children, young people, families, adults meaningful experiences in nature and helping them to identify those sustainable messages. We really talk about a Get Us model of education and the 3 H's of the head, the hand and the heart. So people can jump onto that model at any stage, but by engaging the head with information, then really develops a passion and a desire, a heartfelt desire to get involved, and therefore they will enact something, or they will take action through their hands. Often through field trips and to habitats or protected sites or ASSIs, children, young people or families will engage with those sustainable messages. Eco Schools is one of our members, and I know that the committee have asked in past for information on Eco Schools. 98% of primary schools in Northern Ireland now are volunteer members of the Eco Schools programme. It's important to say, I think, that's an amazing total, considering it is a voluntary scheme. In Scotland, for example, it is mandatory, but here 98% of our schools have signed up to that. But it's also important to say that Eco Schools doesn't stand alone. It is one of our members, one of our 75. And indeed, Catherine and Andy are assessors for that, and a lot of our other members would be supporting, promoting, encouraging schools to get more heavily involved in it. Schools can sign up to Eco Schools and not really go any further, but what we would love to see is most of them attaining some sort of award through Eco Schools, if not their green flag at the end of it. Some of the benefits then from ESD, it's more than just an end-of-the-year jolly out to an ASSI somewhere along the line. ESD programmes are, well, to quote ETI in 2010, out-of-classroom experiences and learning opportunities provide the learners with inspiring, sensory and memorable experiences that bring the curriculum to life in an inclusive way. And they go on to recommend that schools need to provide a range of opportunities for out-of-the-classroom learning, including visits to local and regional areas of environmental interest, They also said, when they're planned and implemented well, learning outside the classroom contributed significantly to raising standards and improving pupils' personal, social and emotional development, and could make an important contribution to pupils' future economic well-being and to preparing them for the next stages of their life. And I think it's important to say as well that ESD, and certainly we find this from our members, that it's not just the child that you have in front of you, but the future contributor to society that you're always looking towards, and that's why we want to focus on those important messages. Forum members already promote key sustainability messages on litter, energy, water, waste, and I know as a committee you've just returned from Belgium, where you also saw the impact of education on their waste programme. One of our members, IKEA, have a wonderful programme on recycling, where groups can go and see that, but there's also a good take-home message, an example. Also messages on healthy lifestyles, biodiversity, transport, farming, climate change, all fall into the ESD remit. So it's quite a wide set of messages. The forum ensures the network opportunities to really share best practice between ourselves and to coordinate the delivery. Now, as regards current resourcing for this, the Environment Agency funding for the Northern Ireland Environment Link and indeed ourselves as a forum is under threat, as we all know. The Natural Heritage Grant Programme is also dubious. The Northern Ireland Environment Agency direct funding to eco-schools also under threat. One of the real big success stories recently has been the carrier bag levy, and through that the Northern Ireland Challenge Fund. That has been extremely successful. £2.3 million made available for the Challenge Fund in 2013-14, and out of that 250 projects delivered across Northern Ireland. That generated £503,730 worth of match funding secured. 8,607 volunteers, 3,785 volunteer days, 968 events. I mean, the statistics are just wonderful. Just from a little bit of an input, there's a huge amount has come from that, a huge amount of good. The issue with that, I suppose, though, is that they are short-term. They're 3-month projects, so it's a short, sharp blast. So I guess that there's a bit of a danger here that we need to, as a forum, continue to monitor how funding comes into the organisation and how that is spread out throughout the sector. We don't want to see the loss of other organisations. After the last round of cuts a number of years ago, we saw a number of our organisations sort of go to the wall. So, I mean, in conclusion, then, really, for considerations and suggestions, then, what we are looking at as a forum is really to continue the fight for the sector, to drive forward the fight. And what we would love to be seeing more is partnership between departments. We have enjoyed a really good relationship with the Department of the Environment and the Environment Agency, and that's been wonderful, particularly through particular officers in the education section. But we have drawn a blank at times when it comes to the Department of Education, because obviously education for sustainable development, it is a cross-departmental work, so we would love to be getting both on board, and certainly the employment and learning as well might be appropriate. So there's something there, I think, for development. We would love to see learning outside the classroom being made mandatory for schools, so that children and young people certainly can get an experience outside, because we know how beneficial that is. ETI have recognised how beneficial that is, and we would love to see that enhanced. We have an awful lot of positive messages to get out there. ESD is an extremely positive opportunity, and we're really working together with Neil to develop that. We need to be aware and we need to watch, particularly in this present round of budgetary and fiscal constraints. That we just need to watch where our funding is coming from and how we're maintaining our funding. So, just in conclusion, committee members, I would just ask if you had any comments or suggestions about how we can move forward like that. That would be great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Sandy, I know you do a lot of great work, and it is very important. I think we teach children and young people from a very early age about environmental issues. I was taught by my son, my oldest son. He's still really into environmental issues. He's now 32, but from primary school days, he came home, he would lecture me.
Yeah, we call that positive pest power.
Oh, yes, and that's where my education came from, and that's him from school. Certainly, I think it's very important from there. You said about partnership working was good with the OE, but not Danny and Dell. And I think a lot of voluntary organisations would say the same thing. It's very hard to try to lobby the Department of Education. Sure. I think maybe the committee may be quite happy for us maybe to write to one suggestion I make is to write to the Department of Education to say how important. And I know children just love being out, going to the rivers and going out, and it's so important. They understand about nature outside.
And as you said, the messages get taken home, so it's not just a day out on a site, but those messages are carried home to that family about recycling, about waste management, about water consumption, about all of those things.
Absolutely.
I think, sorry, also an important part of this again is the strategies that the department is responsible for. The members of the forum through that network are contributing, are delivering those for you already. Yeah. So it's about strengthening those. It's about what we can do for you as that network, as that whole group out there that covers all of those remits, all of those wide areas. How we can continue to deliver on the targets that you have. We mentioned the Eco Schools target, but the biodiversity strategy. On the radio this morning, there was, a fifth of our electricity and energy was produced from renewables last year. The target for the department is 40% by 2020. The members are there delivering those messages and making sure that people are aware of those. So again, it's how we can continue to support you on those as well.
Yeah, yes. Neil has been lobbying us on hosting an Environment Week. I think you were at the reception.
That's right.
You talk about the need for an Environment Week that we've never had one. But other jurisdictions, like Scotland's been running it for about 12 years, 10 years. So if we were to support it, what sort of programme would you be interested to see and be happy to support?
Well, I think, we're a coordinating body for 75 very diverse organisations, from butterfly conservation to, there is a road safety, right across. So I think it's getting our members then sort of to take all that message and celebration into their own communities and actually raise awareness in communities right across Northern Ireland is really so important. It's not just a Belfast-centric thing. Yes. We're right across in every single town and country, and again it's motivating the schools to maybe get on board with that. Schools are a great gateway into a community, almost the front door of a community, and schools are so much now looking out into their communities that I think that we can support them in that and actually really get a celebration of what is so good about Northern Ireland,
Yeah, absolutely.
Very much is our environment.
Pam's got a school in her constituency really into it. But so often it's coming from a principal or teachers who knows and are passionate about environmental issues that they are the driving force, the leadership for it, really. So training of teachers, it's so important.
And not just teachers, but the informal educators, the Brownie leaders, the Girl Guide leaders, the Boys Brigade people, Scouts, whoever, actually influence those. They say that everybody has had a significant person in their life at some time that has actually opened their eyes to something. Your son was obviously your environmental significant person.
He went to university and after first week he rang us home and said, I really want to do environmental law. No.
Yeah. And I think it is about upskilling our young people to give a voice to the environment as well, and become active citizens on behalf of Northern Ireland as a whole in a sustainable context.
So you think that if we were to hold an environmental week, there would be loads of programmes?
I certainly think that there'd be a keenness to, because it helps organisations raise their profile and their messages and things. So
absolutely.
I'm sure that would be. But it actually sometimes needs a bigger vehicle to take it forward.
Yeah, we have so many different weeks. We have Carers Week, we have, Community Relations Week, and I think it's important to say, hey, we want an Environment Week. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah. Is that Sandra?
Yes.
Or is it from last? I'm not sure it was from last time.
No, it's
Yes, Sandra.
Okay, thank you very much. Was somebody quite new to the committee? It's new to hear the information from yourselves. How are you currently funded?
Right. So our secretariat is Northern Ireland Environment Link, and the Environment Agency would then allocate money to Northern Ireland Environment Link for time for an administrator, essentially. But those of us you see today, we're all voluntary. The forum is voluntary. The committee is voluntary. And so we only have secretariat that has time allocated, which is 1 day a week at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And that funding then is under threat, is that what you're saying?
At the moment, yes. That's all up for debate at the moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Other grants programmes are being looked at.
Yeah. No, it's just interesting because yesterday at Education Committee we heard from Momentum, who are obviously wanting to get more STEM into the schools and to contribute, just like what you want to do with the environment stuff. So it's, each sector is wanting to try and improve the links with education, to have input into the curriculum. Do you not have any input into the curriculum, either at primary or post-primary at the minute then?
Not currently. A number of our members, our individual members, have had a chance to talk with committee or committee members or the minister, but it hasn't come centrally.
Yes.
There was an interboard ESD group before the revised curriculum in 2010, and they were instrumental in actually getting ESD as a component of the curriculum, but it's not currently taught, it's not examined, it's not assessed, it's not inspected. So it tends to get lost, and it gets put into that eco schools bracket, which we're talking about is a very important vehicle. But ESD is wider than just the environmental education as such. So it is in there, yes, and it's in there, as I said, as well around us at primary and environment and society at post-primary. So it is in there. And we, again, the members work in schools, youth groups, and the whole of the sectors we're talking about in Spades. We do a lot of work anyway through the members, but it gets missed. It does get missed quite a lot. And as you said, Madam Chair, it tends to be that one dedicated person within not just the schools, but the other sectors as well. You need that person that's interested.
That's what you find. And then, it's all part of this joined up together. I mean, just like businesses having an input into education, environment, the whole STEM issue, we need to learn from the experts and rather, so it's...
If I could just say, I think STEM and ESD are not exclusive. In fact, they're actually so interconnected that by delivering for one, you're automatically delivering for the other, So and we, certainly my organisation would do a lot of STEM work supporting the STEM agenda and science. And so we're not exclusive to each other, we actually should be totally integrated and moving forward in a very united
And certainly our membership is very wide and diverse, including business in the community, big organisations like IKEA, as well as Butterfly Conservation, RSPB, and the local government organisations like Loughney Discovery Centre, Oxford Island.
Yes.
Okay.
Good,
But
diverse.
schools are not allowed to join you, probably. Individual schools.
We service the schools, and certainly our e-bulletin and our information goes out to schools, and our members service those schools.
Okay.
No, we haven't explored necessarily them becoming members of the organisation.
I don't know whether they're allowed to.
I'm not sure that it would be necessarily appropriate.
Okay, thank you.
Cahill?
Yeah, An apologies, permission.
It's okay.
But just, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned the STEM thing, because it's the look at the education thing is basically you think, all right, there's an education process there, and the reaction to doing things better and all of that there. But the main thing for me is the skill set, and,
Yes.
and that's the important part of things. And looking to the future.
It's the
We're really
employability
serious
of-
of doing the environment thing
Yeah.
properly.
Yeah.
And I just want to tease out, because I know that in Armagh there's a STEM projects and that there's a wee bit of connection there in terms.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good schools in
And I think that's a brilliant idea. And
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I
Those
mean,
transferable
yeah,
skills.
it is the skills whenever you're working with young people outdoors. I mean, they're gaining skills in sort of recording, monitoring, identification. Those are all good, sound, basic survey skills for whatever the research they may go into. They're all the good, basic core skills that they need, you know.
But then following on to the technology side of things, how you find that, or are we looking forward to moving forward? I mean,
Well,
we talk about it all the time. I mean, I'm just saying in terms of the likes of STEMs and the,
Well, I think there's no substitute for a young person getting out and getting their hands dirty and really getting into their environment. However, schools are now integrating technology and ICT into those experiences. So they're taking out iPads outside, they're recording again using ICT, they're doing mapping exercises like that. So you can use the environment as a vehicle for teaching maths, art, ICT, whatever. If you have an inspiring teacher who's actually willing to sort of think a little bit laterally, you know, they can incorporate those things in very neatly. And I mean, conservation these days, if you're thinking about the environment and conservation, the natural environment, so much of it is based on ICT now, you know, for mapping, recording, all those. So all those skills are really valuable. So.
And you're right, Mr. Walling, with the employability as well, because it's one of the three pillars of sustainable development is not just the environment. We can't have a healthy environment without a healthy society and a healthy and prosperous economy. So those three run, they're not separate, and that's the crux of sustainable development. So we need those three. So you need to make people, again, you need to skill people so they can face those challenges. Renewable technologies, we talked about that.
No, and that's the thing I want to hear about, because we hear the housekeeping side of things and the recording of things, that's grand. But I mean, the way we want to move forward in terms of technology and skill set, I mean. Okay, thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Pam?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you very much for your presentation. Fascinating and well done on the fabulous work you're doing. In fact, it's voluntary, I think. It's a credit to you all. And as the Chair mentioned, I have a fabulous school, Fairview in Ballyclare, with a fabulous teacher, Neil McAllister, and I suppose that's where my question is. It's okay trying to get these issues into the curriculum in school, but actually you need the passion behind it, not just a...
That's where we come in. That's the members.
Absolutely, because I mean that's what I see that drives the Eco School in Fairview. It's the passion that comes from the teacher.
The teachers need a bit of support, that's all. They just need a bit of support and a bit of knowledge base, and then
well, that's right. I suppose to develop that, yes. But as Catherine says, I mean, there's usually some person in your life that has some kind of real impact, and that's the type of people you want to see impact in terms of environment. And I think it's so good and so healthy for children to be introduced to the world outside. I mean, when I was young, you didn't sit inside. They did nothing to sit inside for you. You only had three channels. So,
absolutely.
Whereas now you've so much to keep you indoors, and there's so much fear there, I suppose, amongst adults too. We want to keep our children cocooned and wrapped up and safe inside. We can barely let them go out. So I think as much encouragement for children to actually get out and about. That then leads to the awareness of the environment around
absolutely.
them.
I was thinking that we started a challenge fund project yesterday at Bush Primary School in Dungannon, and we had the P4s out building mini beast hotels in the blizzards, all wrapped up. And I was thinking about that. Should they really be outside the classroom in this? But it was. They loved it. They didn't mind.
I think it's fantastic.
God, we were through.
They built one for the P1s and one for themselves. They loved it. But that's where the learning comes from. Is the real hands, heart, as you said, the connection.
And as a forum, we are very aware that it isn't just the primary school, you know, that it is the nursery and the playgroup and the primary and the secondary and the uniformed organisation and the
university
and society as a whole.
That's it, and it sort of, you know, scales up. And those opportunities where families are going on a Sunday afternoon walk down to their local park is equally as educational as a programme that we can run, that conversation between grandfather and the child or whatever. Those are all educational opportunities, and as a forum we would encourage, our members would encourage that at all levels. So it's those sustainability messages getting out through our organisations. I know National Trust have done a whole big campaign about just getting people down to their local National Trust property to get out, to experience, to hug a tree, to all that sort of stuff. But there's value in that. Getting your hands dirty.
We don't do that anymore.
There's limits. Obviously, there's limits to some people's grab.
Yes.
We stopped knitting our own yogurt as well.
But I mean, I think the Challenge Fund has certainly provided some interesting projects. There's one running at the moment up at Loch Beg, which is one of the jewels in our sort of designated crown, if you like, and it's looking at Loch Beg, a landscape of treasures, and it's looking at the treasures of people's memories of what that environment once was. What's their vision for the future? How do they feel about the place where they live, and how can they take control of developing that place in the way that they would like to see it for their children and successive generations? So there are lots of kind of interesting projects happening, you know, that really just awaken that passion and understanding, and then there's the decision-making process that comes in, really for the benefit of all. So.
Give them a bit more of a sense of power and control of the environment, so important. Well, isn't
There's
it?
also, Chair, through Chair, there's such positive health impacts.
Well,
the health and wellbeing agenda is something again that, you know, that all the members would be connected to as well, and there is huge benefits, as you said.
Absolutely, in terms of physical and probably more so mental health.
Absolutely.
And I had
I think Alan's organisation
there. Well, I could do with this every day.
Yeah, well, our organisation certainly is engaged with a number of organisations, but in particular the Southern Health and Social Care Trust, with their learning disability and mental health programmes there. And we have potentially 10 clients, 20 clients out every day doing conservation on a range of different sites, and certainly for their mental health and their own mental well-being, it's phenomenal, the changes that you see. Wonderful opportunities as well to get people up, active and contributing to their green spaces.
George, I just on that, because it raises an interesting point, because whilst we're trying to do a lot of programmes to get people out, see, in terms of trying to get the balance right, where education is a big thing and you're trying different technologies and all of that, but the element of getting people outside and practical skills and all of that's a major part of the POM's mental health side of things. That's natural, and different departments trying to do that. But from your own side of things, in terms of curriculum and trying to encourage all of that, where you both get the practical experience, and you were saying take the laptop out or do with it. I mean, and that's a key element too, you know.
Absolutely. We would love to see more of that.
I think teachers would generally, because so many children with special learning needs are kind of in mainstream now, and you know, and the teacher arrives with you and says, "Oh, I've got one with me today, you know, but don't worry, we'll take him out of the way if he misbehaves," you know, and he's actually the child that flourishes in that environment, suddenly becomes the peer educator, actually knowing everything about her and educating his peers, you know, and suddenly becomes a different person because they're outside the boundary of those walls and ceiling that, you know, keep them so tightly under. So it has for children with those learning needs, it can be a really empowering experience.
Excellent. Okay, Lord Morrow.
Yeah, Chair, I too thank the panel for their presentation. One of my pet hates in life is not so much people that do it, but rather what they do is drop in litter. We don't seem to be able to win this one, no matter what we do. I just listened to someone on the radio this morning. They took action into their own hands.
Right, yeah, I heard that.
Didn't hear that. What was it?
Because I suspect if that lady had have taken the number plate of the car, submitted it to the authorities, she would have had a day in court. being cross-examined by a very articulate lawyer and convincing her that she didn't actually see it, it was something else she had seen. Do you think, is there any way that, for instance, even big business can be involved in this anti-litter drive? Because quite frankly, it drives a lot of us to distraction. Just deplore it.
It's been a battle for litter and chewing gum, really, hasn't it?
Chewing gum down
the
to
cost
your
of
tooth,
it.
It is dreadful.
Chewing gum on the pavements of South Belfast. Lots of chewing gums on the pavements of South Belfast.
It's something, sorry, through the chair, it's something I think that our colleagues on the continent are winning. It's societal issues. It's about people making those decisions not to drop the litter. It seems to be embedded into other cultures not to do it as much. They take pride, they have ownership, respect, stewardship of their outside. And I don't know.
Well, that's what we're all
this is what we're all
instill.
about. This is what we've been doing. I know, Keep Northern Ireland Beautiful, again, the organisation that's responsible, again, for a lot of that awareness and publicity raising. And they're fighting a constant battle. I don't know how we do that, Lord Mayor. I really don't. I think, again, the education and and to try and get the next generation, as we said, to take respect, to have respect for. And that fosters then not just a sense of respect for the environment, but a sense of respect for everything and everyone. And I think that's, again, but we need to get there. No, we're not there, certainly not.
I think, Chair, it's possibly something that if we were to have an Environment Week, it would get the profile raised. I think there's also something about Northern Ireland opening up so much more now to outside visitors coming in to enjoy what is so good about Northern Ireland, and then it's seeing our country through their eyes and how do they see it compared to where they've, when I travel sort of on the continent, everywhere seems so much cleaner, and I always wonder, gosh, what do they think when they come here and see sort of stuff lying everywhere,
Exactly.
There's no consolation, but
Have
it's
they
not,
got stronger enforcement as well?
Yeah, well,
The
exactly.
country's
Yes,
much stronger enforcement.
Yes.
Fines, huge fines for dropping litter.
But it's an education programme, because even you saying, I was listening to that story on the radio this morning coming down the road as well, and even some of the paper bags, I've never seen a simple message of dispose of this property or whatever on a paper bag. I mean, even you done that, just to, give the message out there, through time we'll get it right. The number of messages you get out, hopefully you'll get to a point where it'll be. So, I mean, things like that, and probably the Environment Week we'll discuss that.
I think probably the plastic carrier bag levy has contributed in some way to helping to reduce a lot of the things that used to hang in trees and things like that, but it's not by any means the whole,
But it has,
answer to it.
the name, even the advertisements on the plastic bags, as opposed to a message of how you dispose of it.
That's what I was trying to say when I said about big business and whatnot. If you go into, for instance, your Tesco store, I mean, if every one of us was confronted every time we went through either one of the big stores with, the question, how do you dispose of your litter? But something that's going to confront people all the time. It just might start to impact. Now, I know schools push this and about dropping litter and all of that, and I know the school well, where you were at yesterday, for only a few miles from it, at the Bush, and I suspect that that's a great school, and I would have no doubt that school and others like them are pushing this message: do not drop litter. But it seems to be, Chair, we're not winning the battle. It's becoming quite annoying.
Tidy NI now, the new name is making Northern Ireland beautiful. They try to do work with their voluntary organisation. We need really stronger enforcement, really, going after those people who throw litter on the ground. That's, it's the most natural thing to do, just throw whatever, discard anything they've eaten or whatever onto the pavement.
Hello, Chair, if I can say, I was the victim of litter enforcement myself a number of years ago. I got a letter through the post with quite a hefty fine for having thrown a cigarette butt out of the window of my car in Bradbury Place, a car that I had disposed of 6 months previously and filled out all the appropriate paperwork, but I nevertheless got the fine for the person who sat and out. So, I mean, there is some enforcement, but there's just not enough, I think.
Not enough.
Were you glad you'd sold the car?
I was very glad. Also very glad I'm not a smoker.
I was going to ask the minute taker to stop for a few seconds there, but when you exonerate yourself, you can carry on. But it is certainly an all-Ireland issue as well. We work very closely with Eco UNESCO in Dublin, and they would be running the Young Environmentalist Awards, which we host the Ulster Regional Finals at the Loughnane Discovery Centre. And a lot of the projects that the young people present from across Ulster would be litter-based problems as well. I mean, it's an all-Ireland problem. It's an all UK problem. It really is. I don't know how we just have to keep ploughing those messages and hope that people change their behaviours. I think a lot of the, again, certainly, and I live in Dungannon myself, Lormora, and it is the fast food waste as well. Around the roads. I mean,
it's never a message on the box.
Oh, yes.
Simple wee message box. Go somewhere.
I think it's also indicative of our throwaway society and where we've come packaging. You said, look, big supermarkets, the packaging it's indicative of the throwaway.
Scared too.
Robin, you want to ask the question?
Just from the coattails of what Lord Morrow was saying, the other thing that, and I've raised this before in different fora, is the way people deface street furniture. It seems to me that every telecoms cabinet is defaced in some way. It's just not a matter of one here or one there. It's all of them seem to get it. And nothing is done to really maintain them or to clean them up. Now, I can understand that the telecoms companies would cost them a lot of money to do that. But there must be some way of educating people to prevent that happening. I mean, you've got graffiti and so forth, but it seems that any form of street furniture is fair game.
Artwork. You could ask Banksy.
Not artwork at all.
You could ask Banksy.
Sometimes graffiti artists are very good and are artistic.
We'll be pulling walls out.
I know.
I think it does come down to the respect issue, again, as Andy was speaking to there a minute ago. I mean, I think that unfortunately takes time to educate and bring that into the conscious of people that are out there. And certainly starting with children and young people and building that up. But that's going to take time.
Seems a cultural thing.
It is. It is.
It definitely is.
But as you said, it's that consciousness.
It's the conscious.
You know that you don't throw litter out. I'm a bragging mother. I'm a very proud mother. I can't tell you, but this is my oldest son again. He was only about 1. I think a couple of neighbours, girls, and say, "Oh, Mrs. Watson," or was Mrs. Watson, will take your child out in the buggy and give you a bit of peace. And he went out, hot summer. The girls were so good. Bought him a lolly, ice lolly, and when he finished the ice lolly, he handed the stick to the girls, and the girls threw it on the pavement. He screamed, but apparently he cried, but he couldn't speak. He was only 1, so they thought he wanted another one. So they went They went back to the shop and bought the same ice lolly.
That's a good start.
And he ate it. A handed stick again to them.
Again.
Yeah. And of course he threw it on the pavement and he cried. So they got quite huffy, the 2 girls. Wheeled him back and said, "We haven't got any more money. We've given him 2." I said, "Oh, what did you do? What did you do?" He handed you the stick. Yeah. What did you do? I asked him. "Oh, throw it on the pavement." I said, "Well, he was crying because you did not take it back to the house."
Well, Chair, I seem to remember when I was probably quite young, there was a campaign and it was on television, it was everywhere, "Take your litter home."
Yes.
You know, when we were encouraged to
That's
take your litter. I still remember that. So those public education sort of initiatives actually, I think, have a real value. And perhaps, again, if there was an Environment Week, launching some kind of sort of public litter initiative like that might be a good vehicle for raising that.
And
You know,
Chair, the story that you tell us about it would have saved money because it meant they wouldn't have had to buy the second lolly.
They were so annoyed, thinking he was really greedy. 1 lolly, still wanted the second one and the third one.
They're very environmentally friendly, or he's got it sussed.
During my visits to this Fairview in Ballyclare and the Eco School, the school is immaculate. There's no litter, and they
wonderful.
And they have recycling bins outside,
Yeah.
and they're educated where to put the rubbish after break time and whatever. And the only problem they actually have with litter, and they do pick it, is actually the litter that comes from the parents. They're waiting to collect the children.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that just tells you it all. I mean, it's powerful. I mean,
Which is supposed to be part of the ethos of the eco schools, is that you take those messages away from the school to the community and back home.
That's right.
It doesn't work sometimes. You're not going to get everyone on. We don't get everyone on every issue.
Don't tell
You just
mummy and
can't.
daddy what to do, yeah.
But Chair, I think it is. It's not a short-term
No.
fix. We're kind of in for the long haul, really. And I mean, you have to keep chipping away at it, and you do get successes, as we've had many successes. But
Yes.
we need to keep.
I have to say again, this is my son, the same son. In university, he was environmental officer in the student union, so much so by the time he graduated, he won this massive accolade of being the UK Graduate of the Year. £10,000 award as well.
Very good.
Helped to save his university debt.
Shared with his mother.
Yeah.
10,000.
He's very good. He's a lovely. No, he didn't. No, he didn't. He didn't. No, we didn't want his money. We didn't want his money, but I still kept the glass plaque. He gave it to me.
Yeah.
So it was very sweet of him. Very sweet. So I still have it in pride of place in my home. Yeah. Well, thank you very much. It's been really very interesting.
Thank you for
And
your
as you can
time
see,
and interest.
Your members are very enthusiastic about protection of the environment. So thank
And
you.
sorry, Chair, just to say that we're also very aware of sort of the movement in departments, and if there's anything in the future that we can give you information on or send you information on, certainly don't be afraid to call on us.
Yep.
Thank you
We'll
very much.
certainly hope to be in touch with you about.
Thank you.
Yeah. All the best. Thank you. Okay, members. I suggest if we send their briefing paper maybe to the Department of the Environment Committee, to the committee, see if they may be interested to talk to them.
Yep.
What do you think, members?
Absolutely.
Would that be a good idea?
Yeah.
Okay. After hearing about regulations and EU directives, it's quite refreshing to hear from them. So, yeah. Members, then, the next item, correspondence. You have the cover note on page 179, and that's just a couple of items to bring to your attention. Item 15.4 at page 185. The ETI committee have written to the committee asking our views as part of an inquiry into growing the economy and creating jobs and lower corporation tax, really preparing for the devolution of corporation tax varying powers to us. So, members, have you any views? That's at page 185. They have kind of a list given to us as well. What page is that? Appendix 1, 188, kind of all the issues I think we should be thinking about. But I was thinking actually immediately a few things. What would impact economic growth? What about planning policies and practices? I don't think it's in it. Or they include it into policies. But anyway, planning policies and practices. I was thinking also of maybe kind of government subsidies. For example, renewable energy. There is, at the moment, there are grants and subsidies. Arts and culture, I think they have left out access to arts and culture. And a lot of, say, for example, people want to invest into a country, the quality of life. It's very important if they want their chief executives or senior staff to go anywhere to work. I read this somewhere. This is actually evidence-based.
I've heard that too.
That their senior staff would, if they want to be relocated, they want to go to somewhere that has good art scene and good.
Chair, the only thing I don't necessarily disagree with that. I suppose the only issue is the planning stuff's directly relevant to the to this committee. If we're making committee indications, possibly arts and culture stuff is probably more, we might be treading on those of the arts and culture committee type of thing.
Fair enough. What about environment? You know, the quality of you know, the environment, I think is important to maybe to mention as well. Maybe leave out art and culture, Peter's right, but say like planning policies and practices, grant subsidies, environmental quality. That's my thoughts anyway. Okay. What else is it? Referring to the course. Yeah. Oh, we got. And any other thoughts? Any other thoughts, members?
Sure, we'll have to rethink about it. I mean, we'll have to rethink about it and come back in. But certainly planning. Yeah. Planning's one issue. Yeah, certainly.
Yeah.
Come back to it next week.
Come back next week and let members have a think. Yeah. Or recycling, well. Technologies, recycling, waste management.
Environmental practices,
Environmental practices, yeah.
Yeah, something like that,
Yeah. Okay, members. Okay, I have something. Is that an invitation? Landscape futures. I have kind of a note of it in my own. Yes, that's a circular, I think, sent around by OFM, DFM. What page is that? I'm not sure. 182. Yeah, members. Just to maybe highlight that to members. 182 pages. That's a lunchtime seminar on landscape. On landscape futures or something like that. About shared space. Yes, landscape futures. Building a united community, shared space design and delivery. It's a lunchtime lecture, so just to highlight that to members if you have time.
Yeah, okay.
To go and see it. Yep. Okay, members, then are you content then with the suggested actions on the note?
Great.
On the correspondence, okay. Forward work programme is on page 202. Members content to note? Okay. AOB, I haven't any. Members, have you any AOB? No. Then next meeting, same time, 5th of February. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.